The human dropships fell through the atmosphere of Epsilon Varus III like silent shadows. Inside one of them, Specialist Una checked her medical equipment one more time. She was a combat medic trained to save lives under fire. She was also a mother of 2 children back on Earth. Her squad leader, Sergeant Do-hyun, spoke through the comm system. "Remember, our mission is simple. Get the children out. Get them to safety. Nothing else matters." Una nodded even though he couldn't see her. She understood. Every soldier on this mission understood. They weren't here for conquest or revenge. They were here for the children. The dropship landed softly in the darkness, 3 kilometers from the medical center where Hana, Minho, and the other injured children were being kept. The Valkyrie had reinforced the building, expecting the humans to come. What they didn't expect was how the humans would come. Una's squad moved through the colony like ghosts. They used the shadows, the buildings, every piece of cover. The Valkyrie had superior strength and armor. The humans had something else. Centuries of experience fighting enemies stronger than themselves. They passed Valkyrie patrol after Valkyrie patrol without being seen. When they had to take out a guard, they did it silently. No killing, just sleep. The humans had weapons that put the Valkyrie into deep unconsciousness without harming them. "We're not murderers," Do-hyun had told them before the mission. "We're parents coming for our kids." As they approached the medical center, Una saw it was surrounded by Valkyrie soldiers. At least 50 of them, all heavily armed. The building itself had shields and reinforced walls. Do-hyun studied the defenses through his scanner. "Yunbi, can you shut down their shields?" From the human ship in orbit, tech specialist Yunbi's voice came through. "Give me 3 minutes." They waited in silence. Una thought about her own children. Her daughter was 10, her son was 7. She had recorded messages for them before leaving, just in case she didn't come back. But she would come back. She had to. "Shields down," Yunbi reported. "You have a 5-minute window before they notice." "Move," Do-hyun ordered. The squad rushed forward. They reached the medical center walls and began placing charges. Small, precise explosives that would create an entrance without damaging the structure. Without risking the children inside, the charges blew. The wall opened. The squad poured through. Inside, Valkyrie soldiers scrambled to respond. They raised their weapons, but the humans were faster. Stunning blasts dropped the guards before they could fire a shot. Una ran through the corridors following the layout Yunbi had provided. She reached the children's ward and burst through the door. There they were. 15 human children in medical beds. Hana was awake now, her eyes wide with fear and hope. Minho still lay unconscious, machines breathing for him. "We're here," Una said softly, kneeling beside Hana. "We're taking you home." Tears ran down Hana's face. "My mom."
"She's safe."
"Everyone's safe." Una began disconnecting the medical monitors, replacing them with portable human equipment. The other squad members were doing the same with the other children. Everything was going perfectly. Then the alarm sounded. "Contact!" Someone shouted. Valkyrie soldiers were pouring into the building. More than expected. Many more. Do-hyun moved to the door. "Get the children ready for transport. We'll hold them off." But the Valkyrie weren't just coming from one direction. They were coming from everywhere. The humans had walked into a trap. A massive Valkyrie commander appeared at the end of the corridor. Kresh himself, the one who had ordered the stunning of the children. He saw the human soldiers protecting the children's ward. "You came for the younglings," Kresh said, his voice full of malice. "Good. Now we have hostages." He moved forward, reaching for Hana. His huge claw extended toward the little girl. Something changed in Una's eyes. Something primal and ancient. She stepped between Kresh and Hana. "No," she said simply. Kresh laughed. "One human female against me? Move aside." Una didn't move. "Last warning. Step away from the child." Kresh reached past her. His claw touched Hana's shoulder. Una moved. She was smaller, weaker, slower than the Valkyrie. But she was a mother, and someone was threatening a child. Her child. Any child. It didn't matter. Her combat knife found the joint in Kresh's armor, the weak point that their intel had identified. The blade slid through, and Kresh screamed. "All units." Do-hyun's voice came through the comm. "Rules of engagement have changed. They tried to use our children as hostages. Authorization, eliminate all threats. The human soldiers had been holding back, using non-lethal methods, trying to be civilized. But someone had threatened the children they came to rescue. The Valkyrie soldiers died. Not slowly, not cruelly, but efficiently. The humans moved like a force of nature through the medical center. Every Valkyrian who stood between them and the children fell. Kresh tried to crawl away, his green blood pooling beneath him. Yuna stood over him. "You hurt children," she said quietly. "Our children. You broke the one law that mattered. And then you tried to use them as shields. We didn't know," Kresh gasped. "Didn't know humans would react like this." "Now you know," Yuna replied. "Tell your people, tell the galaxy, human children are not bargaining chips. They are not collateral damage. They are our everything." She turned away from him back to Hana. "Can you walk, sweetie?" Hana nodded, tears still streaming. Yuna picked her up anyway, holding her close. "I've got you," Yuna whispered. "You're safe now." The squad moved out of the medical center with all 15 children. Minho was on a floating stretcher, still unconscious but stable. The other children were frightened but unhurt. They made their way to the extraction point. Valkyrian forces tried to stop them, but human air support had arrived. Dropships provided cover fire as the ground team loaded the children aboard. Yuna strapped Hana into a safe seat, then checked on Minho. His vital signs were weak but steady. She had done everything she could for him. Now it was up to the doctors on the ship. As the dropship lifted off, she looked out the window at the colony below. Smoke rose from several buildings. The Valkyrian military installations were burning. The human fleet had struck them while the ground team was inside. Do-hyun sat down next to her. "All children accounted for. 0 human casualties. Mission accomplished." Yuna nodded but didn't feel victorious. She felt tired. Tired and sad that it had come to this. "They really didn't understand," she said quietly. "They didn't understand what they were doing when they hurt our kids." "They understand now," Do-hyun replied. The dropship docked with the Mother's Fury. Admiral Taemin was waiting in the bay. He walked directly to the children, kneeling down to their level. "Welcome home," he said gently. "You're safe. You're all safe." Hana looked up at him. "Are you going to hurt the Valkyrian? Are you going to hurt their children?" Taemin shook his head. "No, child. We don't hurt children. Any children. That's what makes us different." He stood and turned to his comm officer. "Open a channel to the Galactic Council. All frequencies. I want everyone to hear this." Moments later, his face was being broadcast across the entire galaxy. Every council world, every station, every ship. They all heard Admiral Taemin speak. "People of the galaxy," he began. "We came to you in peace 200 years ago. We asked for nothing but a chance to live among the stars. We followed your laws. We honored your traditions. We respected the first law above all others because we understood its importance. The Valkyrian broke that law. They harmed our children. Not in war, not in defense, but in greed. For minerals. For profit. They used weapons on defenseless younglings and called it collateral damage. We have retrieved our children. All of them are safe. The Valkyrian military presence on Epsilon Varus III has been neutralized. Their fleet is destroyed. We did this in 6 hours with 0 human casualties. But we have not killed Valkyrian civilians. We have not harmed Valkyrian children. We have shown restraint that was not shown to us because we believe in the principle behind the first law. Children are sacred. All children. This is our message to the Galactic Council. The first law means something. It must mean something. Laws without enforcement are just words. Consider this enforcement. Consider this a lesson. And understand this. We are slow to anger but infinite in our protection of the young. We did not want this war. We will not continue it if justice is served. But if anyone, anywhere, ever harms human children again, they will face not just our military but the full wrath of a species that has survived 10,000 years by one simple rule. Protect the children. Always. At any cost. We return to the council with our children. We will await your response. The transmission ended. The galaxy was silent. On the council station, Vextar watched the broadcast with growing horror. His plan had failed catastrophically. The Valkyrian Empire's military reputation was shattered. Their fleet was destroyed. And the humans had done it all in less than a day. Theron, the ancient crystalline being, turned to face the assembled council. "The humans have shown us who they truly are," Theron said, its voice like wind chimes in a storm. "They are not weak. They are not simple. They are parents. And we forgot that parents will do anything, sacrifice anything to protect their young. The question now is, what will we do?" Will we condemn them for responding to our breaking of the first law, or will we finally enforce that law as it was meant to be enforced? The Galactic Council had never been so divided. For 3 days, the representatives argued, debated, and shouted at each other. The chamber that had known peace for thousands of years now echoed with anger and fear. Some species demanded that humanity be punished for their attack on the Valkyrie. Others argued that the Valkyrie had broken the first law first. A few, like Theron, called for calm and justice. But the real shock came on the 4th day. The Valkyrie Queen Mother herself appeared before the council. She was ancient, massive, her exoskeleton covered in ceremonial markings. She had not left the Valkyrie homeworld in 200 years. Her presence meant something serious. "The Empire demands justice," she declared, her voice booming through translators. "The humans have humiliated us, destroyed our fleet, killed our soldiers. This cannot stand. We call upon our allies, upon all who value strength and order, to stand with us against this human aggression." Vextar stood beside her, his mandibles clicking with satisfaction. "The Valkyrie Empire mobilizes for war. We will show the humans what happens when they challenge a superior species." To their surprise, few species answered the call. The Korthan, known for their military strength, declined. "We have studied the human response," their ambassador said. "They acted with precision and restraint. They could have destroyed your colony. They chose not to. This is not aggression. This is justice." The Myrian Commonwealth old allies of the Valkyrie also refused. "You broke the first law, you endangered children. We cannot support this." One by one, the Valkyrie's allies turned away. The galaxy had seen what humanity could do. More importantly, they had seen why humanity did it. And many species, when they thought about their own children, understood. On Earth, Intelligence Officer Suji sat in a dark room surrounded by screens. She was monitoring Valkyrie communications, tracking their military movements. What she found made her blood run cold. She immediately contacted Admiral Taman. His face appeared on her screen, looking tired. He had been overseeing the care of the rescued children. "Admiral, we have a problem," Suji said. "I've intercepted Valkyrie military communications. They're planning a counterattack." "We expected that," Taman replied. "Not like this." Suji pulled up the intercepted messages. "They're not targeting our military. They're targeting our colonies. Specifically, they're targeting our schools, our hospitals. They plan to take human children hostage and use them as leverage." Taman's face went hard. "They're going to do the same thing again? After everything?" "They think it will work this time. They think if they have enough human children, we'll surrender to save them." Taman was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "They don't understand us at all, do they?" "No, sir. They don't. Forward this to the council. Let them see what the Valkyrie are planning. Then activate Protocol Starfall." Suji felt a chill. Protocol Starfall was humanity's worst-case scenario plan. The plan for when their children were in direct danger across multiple worlds. "Sir, are you sure?" "They're targeting our children, Suji. Again, after everything we showed them." "Yes, I'm sure." The next day, the intercepted Valkyrie communications were broadcast to the entire Galactic Council. The galaxy heard the Valkyrie military commanders discussing their plan. Heard them laughing about using human children as shields. Heard them call it a perfect strategy. The council chamber went silent with shock. Theron spoke, its voice heavy with sadness. They learned nothing. Nothing at all. Even some of the Valkyrie representatives looked uncomfortable. This was not the honorable warfare their empire was known for. But the Queen Mother was defiant. "It is a legitimate strategy. If the humans value their younglings so much, they will surrender rather than risk them." "You really believe that?" Theron asked quietly. "Yes," the Queen Mother replied. "All species protect their young, but all species also know when to surrender. The humans will learn." Jiwon, who had been sitting quietly through all the debates, finally stood up. Her daughter Hana was recovering in the human medical ship. Minho was still in a coma but stable. "You're right about one thing," Jiwon said to the Queen Mother. "All species protect their young, but you don't understand how humans protect our young. Let me tell you a story." The council listened. On Earth, thousands of years ago, there was a city under attack. The enemy surrounded it, cut off all food, all water. People were starving. But you know what the humans in that city did? The parents gave their food to their children. Every last bite. The adults starved so their children could live one more day. Another time a ship was sinking. There weren't enough lifeboats. You know who got the lifeboats? The children. Women and children first, we said. The men stayed on the ship and drowned, singing songs so their children wouldn't be afraid. We have stories like this from every human culture. Parents who died of thirst giving water to their kids. Parents who froze to death keeping their children warm. Parents who fought bears, lions, tigers with their bare hands to save their young. You think taking our children hostage will make us surrender? Jiwan's voice was cold. It will make us unstoppable, the Queen Mother laughed. Stories, legends, we deal in reality. Our fleets are mobilizing. We will take your colonies, take your younglings, and you will kneel. Then you've chosen your fate, Jiwan replied. Within hours, humanity activated Protocol Starfall. On every human colony world, alarms began to ring. But they weren't panic alarms. They were organized, practiced alarms. Every human family knew exactly what to do because they had drilled for this. Children were evacuated to underground bunkers. These bunkers had been built secretly over decades, deep beneath every human settlement. They were stocked with food, water, medical supplies, and everything needed to keep children safe for months. Teachers and caregivers led the children underground, keeping them calm, turning it into an adventure. The children didn't see the fear in their parents' eyes as they said goodbye. On the colony of New Sol, young Bora held her mother's hand as they walked to the bunker entrance. "Will you come too, Mommy?" she asked. Her mother Mireille knelt down, hugging her tight. "I'll be right behind you, sweetie. I promise. You go with Teacher Hajun now. He'll keep you safe." Bora went into the bunker with the other children. The door closed behind them, heavy, sealed, safe. Mireille stood up, tears on her face. She walked to the militia gathering point where other parents were assembling. They were farmers, teachers, shopkeepers. Not soldiers, but they were parents and their children were in danger. "Everyone clear on the plan?" asked Do-hyun, who had been a farmer before all this. "We hold them here," someone said. "We don't let them get near the bunkers. We fight until the fleet arrives," another added, "and if we die," a woman asked. Do-hyun looked at the bunker entrance. "Then we die knowing our kids are safe. That's enough." The Valkyrian fleets arrived at 3 human colonies simultaneously. They expected panic, chaos, maybe quick surrender. Instead, they found every human adult armed and waiting. The colonies had become fortresses. The Valkyrian commanders were confused. Where were the children? Where were the civilians? They sent ground forces. The humans fought them street by street, building by building. They used every trick, every trap, every desperate measure. They had no formal military training, but they had something else: absolute determination. On New Sol, Mirai stood on the barricade with a rifle she barely knew how to use. Beside her were teachers, doctors, engineers. All parents, the Valkyrian soldiers advanced. They were professional warriors in heavy armor. The human defenders were ordinary people in civilian clothes. But the humans didn't break. They didn't run. They fought like cornered animals protecting their den. A Valkyrian commander managed to break through the human lines. He reached the bunker entrance and tried to open it. The door didn't budge. It was made of reinforced titanium, locked from inside. Mireille tackled him from behind. She was half his size, but she fought with everything she had. Other parents joined her. They brought the Valkyrian down. "You can't win," the Valkyrian gasped. "We are stronger." "Maybe," Mireille replied. "But our children are safe, and that means we've already won." The Valkyrian invasion forces found this same scene repeated across all 3 colonies. No matter how many humans they defeated, more appeared. The humans fought with a ferocity that shocked the experienced Valkyrian warriors. And then the human fleet arrived. Admiral Taman had been waiting for this. The moment the Valkyrian committed to their attack, he moved. His fleet had been spread across human space. But now they converged. 500 ships had defeated the Valkyrian at Epsilon Varus III. Now Taman brought 2,000. "Open a channel to the Valkyrian fleets," he ordered. When the channel opened, his message was simple. "You came for our children. You will leave in pieces or in body bags. Choose now." The Valkyrian fleet commanders saw the human armada approaching. They saw their own forces pinned down on the surface, unable to find a single human child. They saw that their perfect plan had failed completely. One Valkyrian commander chose to retreat. His ships jumped away. The other 2 chose to fight. Their ships were destroyed in minutes. The human fleet had learned from the first battle. They were faster, more coordinated, more ruthless. On the surface, the surviving Valkyrian soldiers surrendered. They were treated with surprising gentleness by the humans, given medical care, food, water. The galaxy had one rule that everyone followed. It was written in stone on every council world, spoken in every language and taught to every child across the stars. The first law was simple. No one harms the children of another species. Ever. For 12,000 years, this law kept the peace. Wars happened, yes. Species fought over territory, resources, and old grudges. But children were always off limits, always sacred. The penalty for breaking this law was severe. Entire civilizations had been cast out of the Galactic Council for violating it. On the mining colony of Epsilon Varus III, Jiwan stood at the window of her office and watched the sunset. Two suns painted the sky in shades of purple and orange. She had been the human ambassador here for 3 years now. 3 peaceful, quiet years. Her daughter Hana was playing outside with the other children. Human children ran and laughed with Valkyrie younglings, their insectoid neighbors. The Valkyrie were tall, with shiny green exoskeletons and multiple arms. They looked scary to humans at first, but they had been good neighbors. Jiwan smiled as she watched Hana chase a Valkyrie child around the playground. The little girl's dark hair flew behind her as she ran. She was 8 years old and fearless. This was what peace looked like. Different species living together, their children playing as friends. Humanity had joined the Galactic Council 200 years ago. They were still new, still learning the ways of galactic society. The older species looked down on them. Humans were weak, they said, short-lived, nothing special. They had no great technology, no impressive strength, no special powers. What the galaxy didn't know was that humans had learned to hide their true nature. During first contact, human leaders had been careful. They showed only what they wanted to show. They appeared peaceful, cooperative, and harmless. And they were peaceful. They truly wanted peace. But peace and weakness were not the same thing. Jiwan's communicator buzzed. She looked down at the message and her smile faded. It was from the council headquarters. A meeting had been called. The subject, relocation of human settlements on Epsilon Varus III. She felt a cold weight in her stomach. Relocation? Why? The next morning, Jiwan sat in the council chamber. The room was huge, designed to hold representatives from hundreds of species. Some sat, some floated, some stood on multiple legs. The Valkyrie representative, Vextar, stood at the center platform. His mandibles clicked as he spoke. Valuable minerals have been discovered beneath the human settlement zones, Vextar announced. His voice was harsh, mechanical through the translator. The Valkyrie Corporation requires access to these resources. The humans must relocate to a different area of the colony. Jiwan stood up. Ambassador Vextar, we were not consulted about this. The human settlement has been there for 15 years. We have homes, schools, and farms. Our children were born there. Vextar's antenna twitched with what might have been annoyance. The resources are worth trillions of credits. Human convenience is not our concern. The council has already approved the relocation. Jiwan looked around the chamber. The other council members avoided her eyes. The decision was made. She and her people had no voice in this. When must we leave? She asked quietly. 3 days, Vextar replied. Valkyrie security forces will assist with the relocation. Jiwan returned to the colony with a heavy heart. She called a meeting with all the human families. She had to tell them they were losing their homes. People were angry, scared, and confused. But what could they do? Humanity was just one small voice in a galaxy of thousands. 3 days later, the Valkyrie security forces arrived. They came in large transport ships and heavily armed shuttles. Jiwan tried to reason with the commander, a massive Valkyrie warrior named Kresh. Please give us more time, she asked. Just 1 more week to pack properly. We have children, elderly people. Kresh's mandibles clacked. No delays. You move now. The human families began loading their belongings onto transports. Children cried. Parents tried to comfort them while packing their entire lives into boxes. The Valkyrie soldiers stood around with weapons, making sure everyone moved quickly. At the school, Hana and the other children were in class when the Valkyrie arrived. The teacher, a kind woman named Mireille, tried to explain what was happening. The children didn't understand. Why did they have to leave? This was their home. Outside, some human parents started to argue with the Valkyrie soldiers. They weren't being violent, just trying to protect their homes, trying to slow down the forced removal. One man, Do-hyun, stood in front of his house and refused to move. This is my home, he said firmly. I built it with my own hands. My son was born here, Kresh pointed at him. Move him. 2 Valkyrie soldiers grabbed Do-hyun. He struggled but didn't fight back. He just held his ground. More humans came to help him. They formed a line, linking arms, blocking the entrance to their neighborhood. Kresh's eyes glowed with anger. I warned you. Use force. The Valkyrian soldiers activated their stunning weapons. Blue energy crackled from the devices. They fired into the crowd of humans. People fell, their bodies convulsing from the shock. Screams filled the air. The children heard the screams. They ran out of the school to see what was happening. Hana was at the front. She saw her neighbors falling, saw the blue lightning, saw her father on the ground. Dad, she screamed and ran toward him. No. Children, get back! Mirai shouted, running after them, but the Valkyrian soldiers were already firing again. The stunning blast hit the group of running children. Hana fell first, then her friend Minho, a 6-year-old boy with bright eyes, then others. 15 children in total dropped to the ground. The stunning weapons weren't made for human children. The voltage was set for adult Valkyrian, whose tough exoskeletons could handle it. Human children were soft, fragile. 3 children seized violently, their small bodies unable to handle the shock. Minho's eyes rolled back and he stopped breathing. Medics rushed forward, desperately trying to revive him. Jiwan arrived at the scene minutes later. She saw her daughter lying on the ground, unconscious but breathing. She saw Minho being loaded onto a medical shuttle, his mother screaming beside him. She saw the other injured children, the crying parents, the Valkyrian soldiers standing there with their weapons. Something broke inside her. Not into pieces, but into something harder, something cold and focused. She walked up to Kresh. Her voice was quiet, but every word was clear. You hurt our children. Kresh looked down at her. Collateral damage. They should not have interfered. Jiwan said nothing more. She turned and walked to the communication center. She sent a message to Earth. Just 4 words. They hurt our children. The message traveled through space at faster than light speed. It reached Earth in hours. It was forwarded to every human colony, every human ship, every human station in the galaxy, and everywhere it went. The response was the same. Silence. Cold. Terrible silence. Jiwan sat beside Hana's bed in the medical center. Her daughter was stable but unconscious. Across the room, Minho lay in a coma, machines keeping him alive. His mother, Suji, sat beside him, holding his small hand. The 2 women looked at each other. No words were needed. They both knew what was coming. The galaxy had broken its most sacred law. They had hurt human children, and now they would learn why humans protected their young with such fierce devotion. The Valkyrian didn't know it yet, but they had awakened something ancient and terrible, something that had made humans the apex predators of Earth, something that had driven them to conquer their own world and reach for the stars. They had threatened human children, and humanity would respond. The message reached Earth at midnight. 4 simple words that changed everything. They hurt our children. Within an hour, every human government knew. Within 2 hours, every human in the galaxy knew. The response was instant and unified in a way the galaxy had never seen from humanity before. All human ambassadors were recalled. Every single one, from every council world, from every station, from every diplomatic post. They left without explanation, without farewell, without negotiation. Human corporations shut down their operations overnight. Factories stopped. Trade ships turned around mid-journey. Human scientists stopped sharing their research. Human teachers left alien schools. Human doctors finished treating their current patients, then packed their bags. The galaxy woke up to find that humans had simply disappeared. On the council headquarters station, the emergency meeting was chaos. Representatives from hundreds of species shouted over each other, demanding explanations. What do the humans want? Someone asked. They haven't made any demands, another replied. Are they preparing for war? We don't know. They've gone completely silent. Vextar stood at his platform, his mandibles clicking with irritation. This is an overreaction. A few human younglings were accidentally injured during a legal relocation. It was unfortunate, but these things happen. An old crystalline being named Theron turned its faceted head toward Vextar. Its voice was like wind chimes. You broke the first law. It was not intentional, Vextar protested. The younglings ran into the security zone. We used standard stunning weapons. The first law makes no distinction between intentional and accidental, Theron replied. You harmed children. The humans have every right to respond. Let them respond, Vextar said with confidence. They are a minor species. What can they do? On Earth, Admiral Taman sat in the military command center, deep beneath the surface. Around him, holographic displays showed every human military asset in the galaxy. His jaw was tight, his eyes cold. A young officer approached him. "Sir, we've received confirmation. All human civilians have been evacuated from Valkyrie space. All our children are safe." Taman nodded. "Good. Begin Operation Mother's Fury." Across human space, things began to move. Things that had been hidden for 200 years. When humanity first met the galaxy, they had been careful. They remembered their own history, their own wars, their own capacity for violence. They knew that appearing too strong would make others afraid. Appearing too weak would make others contemptuous, so they had shown a middle path. They revealed some ships, some weapons, some capabilities. Enough to be respected, not enough to be feared. But they had kept secrets. Many secrets. In the asteroid fields of the Kuiper Belt, massive doors opened in the rocks. They had been there for 150 years, perfectly hidden. Inside were shipyards, vast factories where humanity had been building its true fleet. Ships emerged from the asteroids. Hundreds of them. They were sleek and dark, designed not for show but for function. Each one was named after a human parent who had died protecting their child. The flagship was the largest, Ued's Mother's Fury. Taman stood on the bridge of Mother's Fury watching his fleet assemble. 500 ships all told. Not the largest vessels in the galaxy, but fast, well-armed, and crewed by people who understood exactly what they were fighting for. His second-in-command, Captain Hajun, approached him. "Sir, all ships report ready. Course is set for Epsilon Varus III. How long until we arrive?" Taman asked. 72 hours, sir." Taman looked at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, human children lay injured. One was in a coma, fighting for his life. Their parents sat beside them, waiting for justice. "Make it 60 hours, Taman ordered, and send a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them we're coming." On the council station, Intelligence Officer Suji stood before the assembled representatives. She was a small woman, but her voice carried authority. "You asked what humanity wants," she said. "Before we answer that, you need to understand who we are, who we really are." She activated a holographic display. Images of Earth filled the air. Ancient humans hunting across vast plains. Mothers protecting their babies from predators twice their size. Fathers fighting to their last breath to save their families. "We are persistence hunters," Suji explained. "On our world, we were not the strongest. Not the fastest. Not the most dangerous. But we never gave up. We would chase our prey for days, weeks if necessary, until it collapsed from exhaustion." The council members watched in silence. Every human culture, every human language, every human society developed the same trait: fierce protection of our young. We have stories of mothers lifting impossible weights to save trapped children, fathers running into burning buildings, strangers diving into frozen rivers, all to save children. "Any children?" Suji's voice hardened. "You have a saying in your first law. We have a saying too. In our oldest language, Korean, we say bear protecting her cubs. In English, mama bear. In Spanish, león protegiendo sus cachorros. 200 languages. All saying the same thing: do not threaten our children." She looked directly at Vextar. "You didn't encounter a weak species when you met us. You encountered a sleeping bear, and you poked its cubs." Vextar's mandibles clacked with laughter. Poetic words. "But we have fought wars for 10,000 years. We have conquered 50 systems. What can your apes do to us?" Suji smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. "You're about to find out." The human fleet arrived at Epsilon Varus III exactly 60 hours later. 500 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. They moved in perfect coordination, spreading out in a pattern that looked almost like a net. The Valkyrie had 50 warships in orbit around the colony world. They were massive vessels built for strength and firepower. Their commander, Admiral Kreshina, watched the human fleet approach. 50 against 500, his tactical officer noted. "Should we call for reinforcements?" Kreshna's mandibles clicked with amusement. "Look at the size of those ships. They're tiny. Each of our vessels is worth 10 of theirs. No, we'll crush them here and teach the humans a lesson about overconfidence." He opened a communication channel to the human fleet. "Human vessels, you are in Valkyrie space. Turn back or be destroyed." The response came from Admiral Taman. His face appeared on the view screen, and Kreshina was surprised by what he saw. The human's eyes were calm, almost sad. I am Admiral Taman of the United Earth Defense Fleet, he said quietly. You have 24 hours to return our injured children and surrender those responsible for harming them. Krishna laughed. Or what, little human? Or we will take them, Taman replied. And you will learn why humans have survived every threat our world ever threw at us. The channel closed. Krishna turned to his weapons officer. Power up all weapons. When the humans make their move, destroy them. But the humans didn't make a move. Not for 23 hours. They just waited, floating in space, engines quiet. The Valkyrie grew nervous. What were they waiting for? At exactly 24 hours, Taman sent one more message. Your time is up. You chose this. Then the human ships moved, and the Valkyrie discovered they had made a terrible mistake. The human vessels didn't charge forward in neat lines like proper warships. They scattered in every direction, moving in patterns that made no sense. They were fast, so much faster than their size suggested. The Valkyrie fired their massive weapons, but the human ships weren't where the targeting computers predicted. They dodged and weaved like fish in water, like birds in air. Then they struck back. The human weapons were different from anything the Valkyrie had seen. Not the huge energy cannons of galactic warfare, but smaller, precise weapons that targeted specific ship systems. A Valkyrie cruiser found its engines destroyed. Another lost its weapons. A third lost its shields. The humans weren't trying to destroy the ships. They were disabling them. What kind of warfare is this? Krishna demanded. His tactical officer stared at the displays. Sir, they're using guerrilla tactics. Hit and run. Asymmetric warfare. These are primitive strategies, but we have no defense against them. Our ships are built for direct combat, not this. Krishna watched his fleet being taken apart piece by piece. The humans suffered no casualties. Not one ship lost. 6 hours into the battle, his communications officer received a signal. Sir, the humans are broadcasting on all frequencies. What are they broadcasting? The officer looked confused. It's music, sir. Human music. Lullabies, they call them. Songs they sing to their children. Krishna felt something he hadn't felt in years. Fear. The humans were sending a message. We're here for our children. Nothing else matters. His fleet was destroyed. Not a single human ship was even damaged. And now the human ground forces were deploying to the surface. The Galactic Council convened 1 week after the failed Valkyrie invasion. The chamber was different now. The atmosphere had changed. Species that once looked down on humanity now watched them with wary respect. Theron called the session to order. Its crystalline body reflected the light in rainbow patterns. We are here to address the violations of the first law and determine the path forward. For the first time in 8,000 years, the ancient tribunal was being called. This was the highest court in the galaxy, reserved for only the most serious crimes. 7 judges from 7 ancient species would hear the case. The Valkyrie Queen Mother was called to testify. She stood before the tribunal, no longer proud and defiant. The destruction of 2 fleets and the failure of her invasion had broken something in her. Did you order the use of weapons against human children on Epsilon Varus III? The first judge asked. My commanders acted within their authority to enforce a legal relocation, she replied. That is not what was asked. Did your forces harm human younglings? The Queen Mother's antenna drooped. Yes, but it was not intentional. Did you subsequently plan to take human children hostage for military advantage? Silence, then quietly. Yes, the chamber erupted. Even species sympathetic to the Valkyrie were shocked by the admission. The second judge spoke. The first law states clearly, no species shall harm the offspring of another. Intent is not mentioned. Accident is not an excuse. You broke this law, then planned to break it again deliberately. How do you defend this? I thought humans were weak, the Queen Mother said. I thought they would surrender if their younglings were threatened. Every species surrenders to protect their young. Surrender, yes, the third judge said. But humans do not surrender. They fight harder. You mistook their love for their children as weakness. It was their greatest strength. Vextar was called next. He tried to defend his actions, but the evidence was overwhelming. The recordings, the communications, the orders he had given. He had broken the first law, then encouraged others to do the same. Finally, Jiwan was called to speak. She walked to the center of the chamber, Hana beside her. The little girl's hand was in her mother's hand. They stood together before the entire galaxy. Ambassador Jiwan, the first judge said gently, you have suffered greatly. Your child was harmed. Your people were attacked. Yet humanity showed restraint. You destroyed military targets but spared civilians. You protected even Valkyrian children when you could have taken revenge. Why? Jiwan looked at Hana, then back at the tribunal. Because the first law isn't about humans or Valkyrian or any one species. It's about all children. Every child. When we wrote similar laws on Earth, we learned something important. The moment you make exceptions, the moment you say this child matters but that one doesn't, you've lost what makes civilization worth having. The Valkyrian hurt our children. That filled us with rage, with a need for justice. But if we had hurt their children in return, what would that make us? We would be just as guilty. We would have become the thing we were fighting against. She paused, her voice growing stronger. We want the first law enforced. Not just for humans, but for everyone. Because every parent in this galaxy, no matter their species, should know their children are safe. That's what civilization means. That's what peace means. Hana looked up at the judges. The Valkyrian soldiers scared me, she said in her small voice. They hurt me and my friends, but I saw Valkyrian children at the colony school. They were nice. They played with us. I don't want them to be hurt like I was hurt. The chamber was silent. A human child, victim of the crime being tried, was asking for mercy for the children of her attackers. The seventh judge, the oldest of them all, leaned forward. From the mouth of a youngling comes wisdom that elders have forgotten. This is what the first law was always meant to protect. Not just children's lives, but their innocence. Their belief that the galaxy can be good. The tribunal deliberated for 2 days. When they returned, their judgment was clear. The Valkyrian leadership is found guilty of violating the first law, the first judge declared. Vextar and his co-conspirators are stripped of their positions and exiled from council space. The Queen Mother, while guilty, showed remorse and is allowed to remain, but the Valkyrian Empire will be under council supervision for 50 years. Furthermore, the first law is hereby strengthened. New enforcement protocols will be established. Any violation will result in immediate action by council forces, and humanity, having proven their commitment to this law, will oversee its enforcement. Jiwan was offered a new position, protector of the young. Her job would be to ensure no child of any species would suffer as human children had suffered. She accepted. Her first act was to establish the Hana Protocols, named after her daughter. These were universal standards for protecting children in conflicts, during relocations, in any situation where they might be at risk. Every species had to follow them. The second act was to create the Children's Council. Young members from every species would meet and share their views. The galaxy's leaders would listen to them, because, as Hana had shown, children often saw clearly what adults had forgotten. 5 years passed. The Valkyrian Empire slowly rebuilt its relationship with the galaxy. New leaders emerged, ones who understood that strength wasn't just military power. Some Valkyrian even volunteered to help enforce the Hana protocols. Minho woke from his coma after 6 months. His recovery was slow but complete. He grew up to become a human ambassador, working to build bridges between species. He never forgot what happened, but he chose to use it to create something better. Admiral Taman retired from military service, but he didn't retire from duty. He established schools across human space where children of all species could learn together. He wanted them to grow up knowing each other, understanding each other. Fear comes from ignorance, he told his students. If Valkyrian children and human children grow up as friends, their parents will never go to war. Yuna, the combat medic who had helped rescue the children, became the head of Galactic Emergency Medical Services. She trained medics from every species in her techniques, sharing human medical knowledge freely. We learned medicine because we wanted to save lives, she explained. Every life, every child, that's worth more than any secret. On the anniversary of the incident, a memorial was built on Epsilon Varus III. It wasn't a military monument. It was a playground. Human and Valkyrian children played there together, watched over by parents from both species. Jiwan stood there with Hana, now 13 years old. The girl had grown tall and strong. She still had nightmares sometimes, but she was healing. Mom, Hana asked, do you think it was worth it? All the fighting, all the pain. Jiwan watched a human toddler playing with a Valkyrian youngling. They were laughing, sharing toys, completely unaware of the history that had happened here. Look at them, Jiwan said. 5 years ago, this would have been impossible. Now it's normal. Is that worth it? Yes, 1,000 times yes. The Galactic Council met in regular session. The chamber was different now. The seats were rearranged so that no species sat above another. Human representatives sat among the others, equal partners in galactic governance. Theron addressed the assembly. We stand at the beginning of a new age. The first law is no longer just words on stone. It is living practice, enforced by all, protecting all. We have learned from the humans that laws mean nothing without the will to uphold them. But we have also learned something else, something perhaps more important. We learned that different species may express love differently, may show protection differently, but the core is the same. Every parent, every species loves their children. When we remember that, peace is possible. The Council voted on a new measure, the Galactic Protection Act. It expanded the first law to include not just harm, but also neglect and exploitation. Children would have rights across the galaxy: education, medical care, safety, and love. It passed unanimously. 50 years after the incident, Jiwan was an old woman. Hana had children of her own now. Grandchildren played at Jiwan's feet, a mix of human and other species through marriages that crossed the stars. She sat in her garden, looking up at the sky. Somewhere up there, the galaxy was vast and full of wonders. Somewhere up there, children of 1,000 species played safely, protected by laws that meant something. Admiral Taman visited her. He was old too, his hair white, his hands shaking slightly. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "The way we responded? The violence?" Jiwan thought about it. "I regret that it was necessary. I regret that the Valkyrie didn't understand until we showed them our strength. But the response itself? No, we did what parents do. We protected our children. And in doing so, we protected all children. The history books are calling it the turning point," Taman said. "The moment when the galaxy truly became civilized." "That's too grand," Jiwan laughed. "We were just parents doing what parents do." Maybe that's exactly what civilization needed. Not philosophers or warriors or politicians. Just parents who refused to accept that their children could be hurt. Jiwan smiled. "Maybe you're right." At the Human Military Academy, a new class of officers stood at attention. Their instructor, a veteran of the Epsilon Varus incident, addressed them. "You are being trained as soldiers," she said. "You will learn to fight to..."